Finding Freedom is finally revealed, the biggest revelations from the bombshell book.
I think being a newcomer and knowing that Kate was once a newcomer, I think there are times where she, from speaking to sources, knew that Meghan felt that she could have or needed a little bit more support from Kate and didn't get it in some of those important moments.
Plus, Harry and Meghan move into a new home as their social media accounts are wiped from the royal website, and Harry opens up about racism and compassion in a new interview.
We have to go to the root of the problem, to the source of the problem, and actually fix it there. And as we've discussed before, it's going to take every single one of us. This is not down to the Black community. This is down to every single person that is on the planet right now.
Plus, illustrator Josh Adams talks all about the new digital comic about Harry and Meghan's royal exit.
It's strange, but they were sort of the last people on my mind, even though I was doing a story about them, because at the end of the day, they do know the ending of the story. Mm-hmm. So my hope is that, I guess, that they feel that we didn't get anything wrong.
We've got that plus so much more in today's Royally Us. Hello to our fellow royal lovers and welcome to Royally Us. I'm Christina Garibaldi and I'm so excited to be joined by royal reporter for The Insider, Michaela Friel. Hi, Michaela.
Hi, Christina. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited that you are joining us to co-host, but not only are you co-hosting, you also have a hand in this digital comic that we're going to be talking about. So I'm so excited to learn more about it and to tell everybody where they can check it out.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk a bit more about that later and all the work we went into to kind of bring Meghan and Harry's exit to life through art. So yeah, I'm really excited.
It's going to be so cool. But like I said, we have a lot to get to because, of course, Finding Freedom was revealed, and that is all people can talk about. But before we get to that, we, of course, have to check in on our royal viewers, our royal watchers, who, like always, had a lot to say about last week's show, mostly about Harry and Meghan. So let's kick it off with WWP 901. Said, I struggle with this idea that they are seeking a normal life. If they want to also use their status for public philanthropic causes by doing their speeches, pronouncements, then normalcy will never be achieved. Michaela, what do you think about this? Do you think that normalcy will ever be achieved for Harry and Meghan?
That's something that I think is a little bit of a misconception when it comes to Harry and Meghan, because I don't think they've ever said that they've completely wanted a totally normal life. Like, I think they probably would want an element of privacy that wouldn't have been afforded to them when they were working royals, but I think they probably understand that they have to kind of pay the price of sacrificing a little bit of that normal life if they want to, raise awareness for the causes that they support.
Yeah, definitely. If your name is Meghan Markle or Prince Harry, you're never going to have a normal life. All right, moving on to Toots39 says, I don't believe for a second that Harry felt like a spare, nor like a third wheel. Harry has always had drive, vision, and direction, always. So last week there were some reports, we've had reports about this for years, that Harry kind of felt like a spare to William's heir, even though technically he kind of is.
Yeah, that is a tricky one because I think there's probably an element to that is true because I think it would be difficult when, he's going out on royal engagements and especially if it was joint ones with his brother, and there was reports that he was kind of sidelined by the palace a little bit. So it is difficult. I think there will be elements of that is true, but then it is also true that he had his own passions and his own identity apart from that, if that makes sense.
No, totally. It makes perfect sense. All right, last one from Harry Dennis says, it doesn't make sense that Harry thinks William was being snobbish with the word this girl, which in my opinion happened before the wedding because they were fine during Harry's wedding. William was his best man. Of course, this kind of leads us into Finding Freedom because in the book, William tells Harry to kind of slow it down with that girl, meaning Meghan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not too surprised reading that because there has been different things that's been said about their relationship and William's thoughts on Meghan over the past few years. But yeah, definitely interesting. I don't imagine we'll ever find out the real truth behind that. So yeah, it's probably maybe just one factor that contributes to maybe a few things that led to their fallout, I would imagine.
Definitely. All right. Well, let's continue talking about Finding Freedom. And in this week's Royal Roundup, we have a lot of news to get to, but of course, this is the big one. So co-author Omid Scobie actually spoke out to GMA. So take a look at this.
I felt it was important to really dive into this in the book is because we had seen Meghan and Kate really blamed for almost driving a wedge between that. They're both men in their 30s, and Harry not wanting to play that role of sort of the younger, more subservient brother anymore.
So did you get a chance to read the whole thing, or just a little bit of excerpts here and there?
I read most of it. Well, I imagine like most royal reporters, when it was released, I was frantically speed reading. So yeah, I think I got the gist of most of what was in the book. But
what was the most surprising thing for you?
For me, I was quite surprised by like the very small details about their relationship. And you know, I don't know if most people expected this, but for me, I assumed that a lot of the book would focus more so on their exit and what happened after that. So to hear a lot of the details, like for instance, that apparently they were engaged for a few months without anyone knowing, to me that was quite a shock.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, you know, we had no idea that this relationship was so serious so soon. I mean, Harry knew pretty much after the second date that she was the one, that he was basically in love. And, you know, when he walked into the room, he thought that she was the most beautiful woman he's ever seen. So it seems like they like fell hard and fell fast.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, what were you most anxious to learn about?
Oh, I don't know. I think that probably reading about Meghan's relationship with the royal family, I probably expected that to be worse than what it was. It actually, a lot of the things that I read about her relationship with the Queen and Charles, it seemed like she was in a much better place with them and got on really well with them, whereas I was expecting there to be a lot more about like tensions and things. So that was like a nice surprise, I think, to read it.
I totally agree with you, because when you read that, you know, after Prince Charles walked her down the aisle and she kind of looked at him as almost a second father, I mean, I never even knew that they were that close. I had no idea. So it was kind of nice to see that she had a very strong relationship with, you know, Prince Charles, with the Queen. And, you know, Meghan does take a brunt of a lot of the blame of him leaving, but they do say in the book that this was as much Harry's choice as it was Meghan's.
Definitely, and that's something as well that we kind of focus on in the comic, which we'll talk about later. It's kind of going into the fact that, you know, that his struggles with royal life was actually really nothing to do with her. It was a completely separate thing and something that he'd been going through for years, really.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit topic by topic. We briefly mentioned like what we learned about Harry and Meghan's relationship early on is that, you know, they kind of fell hard and fell fast, and that this, you know, engagement may have happened months and months before we even knew about it. It's like, how do you keep a royal secret like that?
I know, it's like, it's crazy to think, because you imagine it, so many people must have been in it on it, or maybe at all, and it's like, how do you keep this secret from the paparazzi, from the press, or even from people that might have wanted to leak it out? So it's amazing if they actually managed to do that.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit more about the rift between the brothers, and obviously that's something that everybody wants to know about, because these brothers have been so close for so long, and obviously there's a lot of tension between them. You know, Harry basically said it in his ITV interview that, you know, we're brothers, we'll always be brothers, but we're on different paths right now. And it seems like Meghan may be the core root of this problem.
Yeah, so it is a bit of a strange one, reading the book and seeing that all the different like the different things that went into the fallout, and some of the things that William might have said and trying to caution him and things. But I like how the book kind of tackles it in it's kind of a sensitive way. It's not really placing blame on William or Harry. It's just kind of presenting what has happened, which I think was kind of a good stance to take.
Yeah, I thought so too. I also thought it was interesting when Meghan, when she first met William, and she thought that he was going to be grilling her when they first got together, but he was actually very welcoming and welcomed her into his home, and was like, oh, so this is the girl that put this big smile on my brother's face. So, you know, from the beginning, it seemed like everybody was very welcoming to Meghan and very much wanted her to be a part of the family.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, but maybe not. You know, then of course, there's the issue between Kate and Meghan, that there for so long that there was a rumored feud between them, that Kate was crying at the wedding because of something that happened with Charlotte. Authors say that that is not true, right?
Yeah, so that is something that has kind of been like a story for ever since the royal wedding. I think it was when it came out that apparently that there was a fight during, I think it was a bridesmaid's dress fitting for Princess Charlotte, and they had said that Meghan brought Kate to tears. But in the book, the authors were saying that I think they spoke to somebody who was actually there on that day who said that that never happened, and it was a stressful day, but there was no tears, and the ladies were fine with each other. So it's strange that something like that got to the press when it apparently happened.
Were you surprised that, in the book they say that, they really just didn't have a close relationship? They were just, sister-in-laws that never really bonded together. Were you kind of surprised that Kate didn't take her more under her wing?
I wasn't too surprised because I think that, people want to paint this fairy tale picture of, the two brothers and the sister-in-laws and, this happy family. And it's not to say that they're not happy family, but I suppose they just live two different lives. And it doesn't mean that they had some sort of feud, but just that maybe they weren't as close as people expected them to be.
Right, yeah. And that's okay. You don't have to be best friends with everybody, right? What I thought was so interesting about this is that there's a section in the book where we find out that Meghan kind of had to train to be a royal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like she had to pretend to be kidnapped and stuff like that. Had you heard about this before?
No, I hadn't. But then when I looked into it, I had read that this had been reported before, that this was a thing that most royals had to do. And yeah, they said that Kate had to do it as well when she married William, and it's like a proper, hostage scenario and play it out like it's happening in real life, which I imagine would have been quite scary but necessary. But yeah.
So scary. I mean, after reading this from, almost finishing it up cover to cover, I mean, what did you take away from Harry and Meghan? What is something, obviously you've been covering the royals for years and, you're in there, you're in the trenches, you've been covering them for a long time, but what is something new that you learned about them?
I think that it's just a reminder that they are just normal people, and the book contains so many fun little facts and stories about inside their relationship, and it's not so much. It's nice to see a perspective that's not about a royal aide saying their opinion, or even though the book does have that, it's not so much about the opinions of other people, but showing that they are just like a regular couple who met and fell in love. And I think that's something that people need to remember when they're quite harsh in their criticism.
Yeah. Do you believe that they had nothing to do with it?
I don't know, because their team says they didn't, but I mean, the authors must have spoken to people who are pretty close to them to get, I mean, there's details about things that's like their favorite TV shows they watch together. It's like, right. You couldn't make that up, could you?
they certainly their best friends were maybe in on it then. Yeah. But it's a fascinating read, and if you want to learn a little bit more about them, I suggest you pick it up because it kind of sets the record straight on certain things. But we hope the brothers get back on track. We really do. All right. Well, while everybody was devouring Finding Freedom, Harry and Meghan quietly moved into a new home, right?
Yeah, so it's just been reported that they moved to Santa Barbara in July, and it's thought to be, I think, the first property they've actually purchased together.
Yeah. We're hearing that, it's near Ellen DeGeneres, Oprah Winfrey, so he definitely has some A-list neighbors, and they're hoping that, security, they won't have as many problems with security because, of course, they were dealing with drones flying overhead, trying to get photos of them, trying to get photos of Archie. So they're hoping that everybody can just be respectful of their privacy going forward.
Yeah, and I think that's like a really important thing and something that their press team is making clear to people. And because it is tricky when people will find out their address, and it's going to be crazy. So hopefully they'll manage to maintain that kind of level of privacy.
I hope so. All right. Well, in the midst of all of this, Harry was speaking out about a very important topic this week. He spoke out about racism and compassion. Take a look.
Every single one of us is going to have to be part of this. But if you are able to have compassion and be able to have some empathy for other people that their lives is so vastly different to yours, then your awareness is raised. to issues that you would not have been aware of before. This is now the opportunity to take that moment and be able to educate ourselves and to learn. You can't just sit back and go, oh, I knew this was a problem, but it looks like it's being fixed. It's like, no, that's why it's still around.
So where did Harry make these statements? And this is not the first time that he has spoken out about this, right?
Yeah, so he's done a few actual little video calls and things over the past few weeks after Black Lives Matter, and it's quite interesting to look at it because he didn't speak too much on the topic of racism when he was a working royal. He did defend Meghan when she was receiving some racist attacks, but these past few weeks has been the first time he's actually spoken out, and the clip was posted on Instagram and Twitter, and I think people are really praising him for that and for what he's spoken.
Do you feel like he's going to be speaking out about a broad range of more topics now that he's not part of the royal family?
Definitely. I think when he was a royal, I think with all royals, I think that they always need to have everything they say thoroughly checked, and they'll probably have their speeches written up in advance and checked over by a member of the team. But now they don't have to do that. I mean, if they want to have someone look over what they say, I'm sure that's fine. But for the most part, I think that they will be able to pick and choose whatever they want to talk about, which is going to be a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to see what issues they tackle next, definitely. Well, while Harry was speaking out about racism, Meghan opened up about voting in 2020, and she opened up to Marie Claire, and she made an interesting statement. Very, very choice words, I think, when she spoke out, right?
Yeah, so she said that she knows what it feels like to be voiceless. That was the thing that stood out to me, right?
Yeah.
So,
oh, totally.
So I think that was kind of a hint towards maybe the fact that when she was a royal and she wasn't allowed to speak about her political views, and so maybe we'll see her talk more as the election comes closer. Maybe she'll even share some of her more personal views.
Yeah, totally. Do you feel like that was a little subtle dig, not so subtle dig to the royal family? Just gonna get that one in there. So this week also it was people noticed that Harry and Meghan's social media account, as well as Prince Andrew's, was removed from the royal website, right?
Yeah, so it looks like they've all been taken down at the same time, which I think people are commenting on the timing and asking if that's the right thing to do, and to place Harry and Meghan in the same kind of category as Prince Andrew.
Right.
But I suppose they've all left their roles, so I suppose it's just a matter of protocol and what they would do for all of the royals who've left their positions.
Yeah, it's interesting that it took a little while though, because Harry and Meghan left or announced that they were leaving back in January, and then obviously Prince Andrew, that's a whole other thing that should have probably been taken down immediately. But yeah, so I guess better late than never, right? All right, so moving on, it is time to spill the royalty. And like we said, everybody's so fascinated about the status of William and Harry's relationship and, what's going to be happening going forward. Do we know if Harry and William have, well, we actually got reporting, Us Weekly got reporting that Harry and William are speaking, but, they're civil and they really want to get things back on track, which I think, is all you can hope for, really.
Yeah, and that's interesting to hear that they're speaking again. And I think that, if that's true, then I think it would make sense, because as it kind of was reported in Finding Freedom, one of the main factors that went into the tension between them was, I think there was a quote that said Harry always felt like second place to his brother when he was part of the monarchy.
Right.
So that factor has kind of been taken away, and there's not that competition because he's removed himself from that situation. It would make sense that they're able to reconnect, I think.
Yeah. I mean, in your opinion, what do you think? I mean, obviously, because you've been a royal reporter for years and, you kind of know the ins and outs. What do you think Diana would think of their relationship right now?
Oh, that's tricky. I think like any mum, I think it would be sad to watch your children on opposite sides of the world and maybe not having as close a relationship as, what they had when they were little, because as you see in all the videos and the pictures of them with Diana, they were such a close little group. So, it's a shame, but hopefully whenever restrictions are lifted and they'll be able to see each other again and be back in the same country.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully William and Kate and the kids can make a trip to California because, oh, the paparazzi would go crazy for that. Yes. But while Harry and Meghan have been taking some time to, some time for themselves and kind of normalize their life a little bit, William and Kate have really stepped up during this time. I would say during quarantine. I mean, we've talked about it on the show for weeks and weeks and weeks, how, they were constantly doing Zooms and now they're constantly doing appearances and kind of picking up the slack a little bit. I mean, do you have any idea of how the Queen may have been reacting to this? Because it seems like they really have picked up a lot of work in the past few months.
Yeah, I imagine the Queen is probably very proud that they took this situation that nobody was really expecting to be in, and they kind of almost became the face of the monarchy with all their Zoom engagements and things like that. And they were making themselves accessible to the public who would normally go out and try and see them whenever they do events or appearances and things. So, and the fact that they're the younger generation, I think they really must have spearheaded this new kind of way of doing engagements. And then shortly after, we saw the Queen do some of her own video calls. So maybe William and Kate were the inspiration behind that.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, do you feel like William and Kate are going to modernize the monarchy a little bit more, maybe in the next few years?
I hope so. I mean, it's tricky to say which direction things are going to go, but I think that, I think it can only improve, and the different things that they'll use to connect with audiences and charities and things. I think, and especially with using technology, I think that this is something that they'll probably continue to do even when they don't have to anymore.
Definitely, definitely. All right, now it is time to break down the royal rules, and I want to bring in illustrator Josh Adams, who made Harry and Meghan come to life in this new digital comic book. I'm so excited about it. The Great Escape: Why Prince Harry and Meghan Markle Left the Royal Family.
Thank you for having me. This is a pleasure.
Yeah, I was telling Michaela how excited I am to see this entire comic come to life because, obviously people are so interested and so invested in Harry and Meghan's story. How did you kind of prepare to bring Harry and Meghan to life so beautifully?
Well, from a practical standpoint, the first thing an artist has to do is sort of understand their subject. Mm-hmm. So it was a lot of preparing to draw Harry and Meghan, do a lot of gathering a reference and doing test drawings. And funny enough, one of the hardest things to do is to draw even featured good-looking people. And Harry and Meghan are actually really gorgeous, beautiful people. So it was a real challenge.
So, Michaela, what story are you telling with this? Is it just them, them announcing that they're leaving up until, them being in California? What's kind of the story that we're kind of telling with this?
So I think, and I'm sure hopefully Josh would agree, that I think the main priority was to get across the fact that the big misconception that is being painted in the tabloids, that it was, Meghan's doing and she was behind the exit. So kind of in order to kind of counteract that narrative, we really delved back into Harry's childhood, and from kind of digging up old interviews of him where he's even expressed his desire to leave the royal family years before he ever met Meghan, from looking into stuff like that, or even his childhood and how Princess Diana's death affected him. So we really did go all the way back and then bring it forward again with the recent events. So I think that was the main kind of thing that we were trying to get across.
Yeah, definitely. And Josh, like you said, there were some challenging parts to this, but was there a specific scene or a specific story that you just had to go back over and over and over again, or rip up the paper and be like, I didn't get this right? What was kind of that moment for you?
I think for me, the real challenge with that was probably the death of Princess Diana. Mm-hmm. We approached that multiple times in the story, and I remember it as a kid. It was a massive worldwide tragedy, and to illustrate, the car crash, to illustrate her funeral, and to illustrate, a young Harry and William and their father looking on at them. It was a very emotionally challenging piece of illustration to have to work on. And I took many breaks to kind of recollect myself while working on those parts of the story.
Josh, if Harry and Meghan get their hands on this and they see this digital comic, what do you hope their reaction is?
Oh God. It's strange, but they were sort of the last people on my mind, even though I was doing a story about them, because at the end of the day, they do know the ending of the story. Mm-hmm. So my hope is that, I guess, that they feel that we didn't get anything wrong. I mean, I don't think that's really possible. We were working with the truth. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking more about the rest of the world when we did the story. So my hope is that those people that read it get a better understanding of them, and maybe, I guess, can relate to them a little better.
Definitely. Well, I'm so excited for everybody to check this out. It is beautifully done. Josh, congratulations. Great work. Michaela, as always, great work. I mean, this is just beautifully done, and I'm sure royal fans and enthusiasts will devour it.
Thank you so much.
Well, make sure to check out The Great Escape, Why Prince Harry and Meghan Markle Left the Royal Family. To do that, make sure you go head on over to insider.com. All right, moving on to our royal history moment of the week. And this is pretty cool because we are learning how to brew the perfect cup of tea for the Queen, right?
Yeah, so Twinings, they did an interview, didn't they, when we were talking about the precise way that you should make your tea. I think they said exactly 4 minutes you should leave the tea bag, right?
Yes, 4 minutes. 4 minutes if you want to get the perfect cup of tea for the Queen. Do we know what kind of tea she uses?
Well, I know there's a few brands that she favors, but Twinings actually has a royal warrant, I think. So I think that they've been officially approved by her. So we know that she likes that brand.
Definitely. I know. When I was reading, Twinings has been the royal brand since 1837 with Queen Victoria. So that is going way back.
Crazy.
It's so crazy. All right, Michaela, before we wrap up, we have to check in on our Pint-Sized Palace, our royal kiddos. And it turns out Us Weekly actually got some reporting that Prince George already knows that he's going to be king. We found out that, he's very well aware, and that William has explained his role to him, which I would imagine that he probably would have to.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny to think because he's so young. He's only like 7 years old, but I imagine that, and you can see the way that William and Kate are with the kids when they're together, and their photos and videos that they post, and even how they speak about them in interviews. It seems like they've got a really good open communication. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they've sat down and kind of explained it, but in a very, child-friendly way that wouldn't overwhelm them.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that would be totally overwhelming. Like, so in, however amount of time, you're about to be king, so no pressure, but this is happening. I found it interesting in our reporting as well that, like, he's learning about his own family in, like, history classes while he's at school. So it's like, oh yeah, that's my great grandma, that's my dad, my grandpa, we're all just royals, no big deal. We also got reporting that Charlotte knows that she's a princess too, and loves to rock her little tiara, her toy tiara, which I think is so funny.
That is so cute, and I think it'll be lovely when we see her in a real tiara one day.
Oh, totally. Oh my God, I just can't wait. They're both so adorable. And like we said, William and Kate have really done a really good job of keeping them grounded, because obviously they know they come from a very privileged family, and they're not like the rest of us, but they do their best not to make sure that they're not spoiled, and have a good head on their shoulders.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, Michaela, thank you so much for breaking down all things royals with me. This was so much fun.
Oh no, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed myself.
Of course. And make sure to check out the comic. Yet again, you guys got to check it out over on theinsider.com. Michaela, again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Make sure to keep up with all your royal news over at usmagazine.com. Keep commenting, keep subscribing, and we'll see you next week on Royally Us.